Hey guys, today we are going to make some baby back ribs, so let's make something delicious. Alright, so we've got family coming over later and we are going to make for them a Texas inspired smoky rub, and the other rack of ribs is going to have this Jamaican spice. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off the membrane. Now I know some people like to leave them on. I like to take them off. And the best way that I found to do that is by taking just a butter knife, starting to wiggle it in there. Sometimes it's a little hard. Just wiggle it in there. The way I think of it is kind of like peeling off a sticker. You only want to pull a little bit at a time, until you got a big piece. And from there, you can just start to lift up. You can use a paper towel now to just pull. Just pull all of that skin right off. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow us to season the meat from both sides of the ribs. So we'll do that to the other rack as well. So just get under there, start to lift a little bit. And sometimes it breaks, it's totally fine. Just start over at another spot. Start to lift. Okay, now we have that. Let's get another piece of paper towel. And the paper towel just helps us grip the skin. It's pretty slippery. Just pull, keep pulling. I'm trying to be gentle because I don't want to rip it in multiple pieces and have to start over. And I find it really satisfying when it comes off in one piece. There we go. Alright, so now we've got our two racks of ribs, both have the membranes taken off. Now we are going to season. So the first one, we're going to use the Texas rub. It's bold and smoky, and it has salt, black pepper, mesquite, smoked sea salt, brown sugar, hashed chili pepper, cane sugar, garlic, onion, coriander. So, and we've used this rub before, it turned out pretty well. So you just want to be very liberal on the seasoning. Really coat it on there. Get these sides too. And just pat them down. Help them stick a little. Now I've seen people use mustard or oil to use as a binder. I don't usually do that. And then for this other rack, we are going to use our Jamaican Style Grill Spice. So I've made 3 racks of ribs with this rub, and everybody has pretty much just loved it. And this has salt, coconut sap, sugar, paprika, garlic, orange powder, onion. That's it. So same thing, we just want to give it a good good coating on there. And of course, applying rub is always a little bit of a messy process, so you know, if I miss the tray, no big deal. Get these sides as well. All right, so now let's flip this guy over, get the other side. I like to get a pretty good amount on there so that we get like a bark. Pat it down a little. Okay, now let's flip this guy. Looks like this one comes out a little bit easier from the container, so we got to be a little bit more careful with it. Okay, so now we've got the membranes peeled off, we've got the rub on. We're just going to let it sit for about an hour, and we're going to let the meat kind of sweat out, penetrate into the meat, the seasoning, let the rub penetrate into the meat, and we're going to put her on in just a little bit. Alright guys, so for our cook today, we are using the Masterbuilt 560 gravity fed smoker, and we are using Royal Oak hardwood charcoal, and we are adding some apple wood chunks in there for our smoke. So what we're going to do, going to open this up, throw some charcoal in there. Throw in a couple of chunks of apple wood. That. And we're just going to layer it back and forth with lump charcoal and then the apple wood chunks. Alright, so we've got our hardwood lump charcoal in there, mixed in with some apple wood chunks for our smoke. Take these slides out. Let's get her fired up. All right, so while this fires up, let's go ahead and talk about the temperatures and the times that we are going to do for this cook. So there's a couple of different ways of doing ribs. The most popular way is the 3-2-1 method, and that means that for 3 hours you leave the ribs in there unwrapped, and then for 2 hours you wrap it in foil or butcher paper, you put it back in, and then for the last hour you take it out of the wrapping, throw it back in there at 350. So that's the 3-2-1 method. What we're going to do today is a little bit different. We're going to do a 2-2-1, which is 2 hours unwrapped, 2 hours wrapped in foil, and then 1 hour unwrapped. And the reason for that is because I don't really want fall off the bone ribs. You know, I want them to still have a little bit of structure in there. But because we're doing it for 2 hours wrapped, it's going to make sure that the meat is pretty tender as we cook it. So the fire is looking good. One thing that we also need to look at with the Masterbuilt is, can't see it from that far away, but the probe is actually about 2 inches above from the grill grate, and so it's actually a lot hotter on the grate than what's showing on the probe. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to cook the ribs on the rack above, and that's gonna let us cook it at the temperature that we actually want. Also, something that I like to do is I like to add an additional probe in there. So this is the Inkbird temperature probe. So we're just gonna throw an extra probe on the rack. We're not gonna put it in the ribs yet. And that's gonna allow us to track the temperature in the cook chamber as we are cooking the ribs. And when we do the last hour, that's when I'll be putting in the probes in the ribs so that we can measure the temperature for doneness. So let's go ahead and get this set up. So we've got the additional probe in there, and this is heating up pretty quickly. We're already at 191, so we've only got about 60 degrees more. So let's go ahead and grab the ribs and throw them in there. Okay, so as you can see, we're starting to get some smoke, and it's not the really white billowy smoke. It's a little thinner, and that's really what we want to do. Something else that I usually do for these cooks is I throw a water pan in there. You know, we're gonna spritz it every hour or so, but I like to keep a water pan in there just to keep the moisture up in the cook chamber. And with that, we're still gonna spritz it about every hour or so. So let's go ahead and put the racks in there. Alright, so we've got both racks in there. We've got the water pan, we've got the extra temperature probe. So we'll see it in about an hour. Alright guys, so we are an hour in, and now we're just going to check on the ribs and spritz it with a little apple cider vinegar. Alright, so they're looking good. I think the water pan is doing its job. It's still a little moist in there. Just gonna spritz it. Alright, we're gonna close her up, and we'll leave it for another hour, and then we're gonna wrap. Alright guys, so we are getting ready to pull the ribs from the smoker. and then wrap them up. So what we're going to do right now is kind of just prep the wrap that we are going to use. So we're going to take some aluminum foil, take a piece of it. And I actually decided to try something new for this rack. What we're going to do is we're going to spray some apple cider vinegar into the foil. We are going to add some brown sugar. Usually I don't do any brown sugar, so we'll see how it turns out a little bit differently using brown sugar. Just get a line going like that. Okay. And I also usually like to throw in a little bit more of the rub. Put some of that in there. And finally, some butter. Got the butter. And we'll just do a little bit of butter along this same line. Okay, so this wrap is going to be for the Texas style rub that we used, and we're going to make another one for the Jamaican rub. Put this back here. We'll get another piece of foil. Like that. So again, we spritz it with apple cider vinegar for this. Add a little brown sugar. This time we put a little bit of the Jamaican rub in with the sugar and a little bit of butter. So we are just about ready to pull the ribs, and what I'll go ahead and do is pull the ribs right now. And once we have the ribs in here, in the wrap, we're going to put the meat on the bottom of it, and then we're going to do the same thing at the bone side of the ribs, which is put, some apple cider vinegar, brown sugar, the rub, and then some butter as well. So, all right, everybody, we are at 2 hours wrapped. So now we're going to take out the ribs from the foil. We're going to put some temperature probes in them, and they're going to go in for their last hour. So let's go ahead and take them out. Here's what they look like. They're just sitting in the foil right now. I'm going to put on my gloves and take them out. See how they look. They're pretty pliable. They're bending really well, so that's a good sign they're going to be tender. Here's what they look like. Oh, let's see. Here's what they look like right now. So let me go ahead and put them in there. The other one. This one is also pretty tender. It's already folding pretty well. Really pliable. So it's a good sign again, it's going to be tender. Just got to be a little careful with them. So That's what they look like right now. They are starting to pull back at the bone, so that's a good sign that they're almost done. Throw them back in there. Here's this one. This is the Texas rub. Again, looking really good. The bone is starting to show, so we're almost there. So we're gonna throw them back onto the smoker. This time we're gonna add our temperature probes so we can start measuring for doneness. Let's work it in there. We want to put the probe at the thickest part of the meat. Yeah, so that probe is going in there pretty easily. Let's get this other one in there. Okay. Right here. Yeah, it's going in there pretty easily. So we are definitely close to being done here. So let's close her up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to throw on a couple more apple wood chunks in there to get a little bit more smoke in there. But that's pretty much it. We're almost done, guys. Okay, guys, so I couldn't show you when I pulled out the ribs from the smoker because it started raining, but we have the ribs right here. They've rested for a little bit. We're going to throw them onto the cutting board and we're going to see how they look and what they taste like. Okay, so we got our knife, our slicing knife right here. We're going to take this one out first. And that is the smoke, the Texas smoke one. And we've also got the Jamaican rib right here. We'll save these juices in case anyone wants to have extra juicy ribs. So we've got them right here. So let's give them a cut. Now, one thing that I like to do when I cut ribs, I actually like to cut them from the bottom. That way I can see where the bones are, and it's a lot easier to cut them. Ooh, they're cutting really easily, very tender. Bring it to you guys. Here it is. It's got a smoke ring on there. Very juicy. So let's give it a bite. Definitely super tender. You can see as I bit, my teeth marks just went through. I didn't pull any extra meat off. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. Some people want fall off the bone. I don't really want that. I want more tender, but they still have their structure. So that's the smoke one. You can definitely taste the smoke in it. Now this one is going to be our Jamaican rub. Ooh, this one is cutting really easily as well. Again, it's a sign it's going to be tender. Okay, that's what this one looks like. Pretty good smoke ring on it. again, we've got the bite mark. Once I took the bite, it didn't just completely pull off. Yeah, and this one definitely has some more citrus, a little sweeter, and a little spice, which is really what that Jamaican rub is looking for. So all in all, these ribs came out really well. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you at the next one.